Hey everyone, and welcome. So today we're going to do something a little bit different. Instead of our usual deep dive into a complex theory, we're going to explore what it really means to be a fan. We're looking at this incredibly heartfelt tribute to a show that, let's be honest, defined a generation, Stranger Things.
You know, this is the perfect way to kick things off. The source for today's explainer isn't some technical breakdown, it's a raw, emotional reaction from a fan who basically grew up with the kids from Hawkins. It's all about that shared experience and that profound, heavy feeling of saying goodbye. Let's get into it.
So to really get the impact of the finale, we have to start by understanding the deep, and I mean deep, personal connection that fans have with this story and these characters.
This quote it gets right to the heart of it, doesn't it? For so many of us, Stranger Things wasn't just a show we watched, it was a show we grew up with. So its ending doesn't just feel like a series finale, it feels like closing a huge chapter of your own life. And there's a real sense of loss that comes along with that.
Okay, so let's talk about the finale itself and how this all builds up. To really capture the emotional weight, our fan source compares it to another massive, unforgettable TV event.
Now, what's so interesting here is the comparison to The Red Wedding. It's not about the plot being similar, not at all. It's about the shared emotional impact. Just like that infamous Game of Thrones episode, it kind of broke that unspoken promise that the good guys will always have a clean, happy win. The Stranger Things finale was this experience where every single scene felt heavy, every line hit you right in the heart, and it left you feeling like you just survived some kind of collective trauma. And a huge, huge part of that emotional weight comes from the sacrifices. See, this was never just a story about fighting monsters, it was a story about friendship and what these characters were willing to give up for each other.
And the fan tribute breaks this down so beautifully. It argues that the real gut punch of the ending came from the personal cost for each character. You've got Eleven's stolen childhood, all the way to Max's devastating silence. Every single member of the group lost something profound, and that's what made it so incredibly painful to watch.
Let's just focus on Eleven for a second. Her sacrifice was immense. It wasn't just about the physical toll of her powers. No, from the very beginning, she was forced to give up any shot at a normal life, a normal childhood, all to protect her friends and, save the world.
And then there's Max. For so many of us, and as this tribute points out, her fate was the single most heart-wrenching part of the whole finale. That silence, man, it was just devastating.
And that really brings up a question for everyone who watched, right? Well, Max's story was so powerful for so many, what was the moment that really stayed with you? I think the beauty of a show like this is how it connects with each of us so personally.
So, after all that pain and all that sacrifice, what does it all mean? Where do we land? Let's get into the fans' interpretation of the show's final message, and it's a really bittersweet one.
Okay, so here's the crucial point. The end of Stranger Things seems to be saying that the real victory wasn't about defeating the final monster in some clean, triumphant way. No, the true victory was that through all of it, through the loss and the trauma, their friendship, their bond actually survived. That was the one thing that couldn't be broken.
And this illustrates a very mature theme that the tribute just nails. The show respects its audience enough to say that sometimes, even when heroes give every single thing they have, they can still lose the bigger battle. It doesn't give us some simple fairy tale ending. It gives us something more real, and that makes the victory of their friendship feel so much more earned and so much more meaningful.
And that brings us right to the end. The final part of this journey is really just about accepting that farewell, not just to the characters, but to the journey that we've all been on together.
This is exactly what makes it so hard. These weren't just characters on a screen. For so many of us, they really did feel like a part of our lives. We invested years watching them grow, celebrating their wins, and feeling their losses right there alongside them. And so, that feeling of sadness is completely valid. It's the natural result of ending a relationship that actually meant something to you. The fan who wrote this tribute wasn't just analyzing a show, they were grieving the end of an era, and I think a lot of us can relate to that.
But here's the final takeaway. The story on the screen might be over, but the impact it had on us, the memories, the emotions, that feeling of fighting for your friends, that stuff stays with you. The upside down becomes a part of our own story. And really, what more is there to say? For the memories, for the emotions, and for a story that brought so many of us together, thank you, Stranger Things. And thank you for joining me today.